Windsor police will equip some units with a life-saving drug that reverses opioid overdoses, but some people say it doesn't go far enough.
It was a major gas explosion. It blew out the back wall. The 2 floors pancaked into the basement. The huge, very powerful, it blew everything right out across the street here.
It was one of the worst disasters in Windsor's history. 10 killed, 100 injured, many severely. Today, we take a look back 60 years with people who were at the scene. A live look outside right now, clearing up, but a large part of southwestern Ontario under a tornado watch, including Windsor, Essex, and Chatham, Kent. I'm Chris Ensing. That's what we're going to start with tonight. We're actually going to bring in Colette Kennedy live right now to talk about the weather, the situation outside, those storms powerful enough to really create some damage. Eh, Colette?
That's right, Chris. And just a reminder again, when we're talking about a tornado watch, we're talking about the conditions being favorable for the development of tornadoes. So we are seeing, and you can see it's a large area here, including Windsor, Leamington, Chatham, Kent, through Essex, through these regions. We're in this watch where we do have some severe thunderstorm activity, but the conditions favorable that we could see some rotation, so we could see some tornado development. I also want to show you the severe thunderstorm watch, but the warning areas. So we have some very active cells. I want to get to those all lining up, and we know we have the conditions for this. We had the very, very warm temperatures today, and we have the humidity as well, and then we have such a contrast, that temperature gradient, and we're seeing that as that colder air is pushing in along the front, there's the line of storms. And now, even if we don't get the tornadic activity, we're still looking at the risk for some damaging winds here, some of the wind gusts exceeding 80, 90 kilometers an hour, heavy downpours that can cause the flash flooding, some small hail, even some moderate hail that's been reported with some of these storms, but also the lightning strikes. All those blue lines there, we're seeing the lightning strikes associated with these storms. I just want to broaden your perspective a little bit here. You can see there's also been not just tornado watches, but warnings up into central Ontario. All of this lining up along that cold front as this colder air is pushing in. So we're continuing to watch this. They're pushing at about 50 to 70 kilometers an hour in terms of the pace of these storms that are moving through the region. So another hour or two in terms of the very intense storms before they'll be tracking out of the area. And then we're still going to have the risk for some isolated storms behind this. So I'll give you a little further detail on what's going to be happening with our forecast as we go into the later evening and overnight hours when I come back a little bit later. But for now, we continue to be in that tornado watch, but also severe thunderstorm warnings in the region.
All right, thanks, Colette. Again, we will check in later on in the show here. Windsor's police chief is making a promise that some officers will be told to carry naloxone within 12 months. The CBC's Jason Veal continues to follow this story, joins us live with more. Jason, what exactly prompted this change in policy?
Well, Chris, Chief Pam Mazzuno says there were instances here at the Windsor Police Headquarters within the cell block where there were people in custody who required medical attention and went into medical distress, and EMS needed to be called. So that's why officers within the detention unit here at the headquarters will be the first to have access to naloxone. But outside of saying that's going to happen within the next 12 months, it's unclear how soon we might see that unfold. And I also asked the chief today how long these discussions have been happening internally in terms of this policy. Have a listen to a bit of our conversation today.
We're still working on finalizing the policy.
Okay. When did discussions first start about this policy?
Discussions about naloxone in the detention unit have been ongoing for a little while.
Okay. 8 months or less than that?
I couldn't tell you when the exact date was that we started discussing it. But, you know, with COVID happening in March, some things do get set aside and get reattended to as time goes on. But it has been something that we've been discussing.
And this news today doesn't go far enough for Brandon Bailey. He's with the Windsor Overdose Prevention Society.
It's a start. Something is better than nothing, but at the same time, that doesn't help most of the people that would need it if they're using inside their home alone. I can go to Shoppers Drug Mart and have naloxone in my hands in 15 minutes. Why like all this bureaucracy makes everything take a year to get it done? Sounds ridiculous. It sounds like they're just trying to appease and shut up the community and get people off their backs.
Jason, any idea why those specific officers who will be equipped can't carry it, say, next week?
Well, Chris, I'm told there are a few things that need to happen first. So a policy needs to be finalized internally. Training needs to happen for the officers who will have access to it or be equipped with it. And they also need to get their hands on the naloxone, although it's free through the provincial government.
And Jason, what other units will be getting naloxone with the Windsor Police Service?
So outside of the detention unit, the problem-oriented policing unit, POP, or the City Centre Patrol will also be equipped with this potentially life-saving drug. And Mizuno says that's because these officers are more likely to come in contact with some of the vulnerable populations in our community and those who might be experiencing a drug overdose. And she says all officers within those units will be equipped with naloxone.
It wouldn't be efficient to have it any other way. It would have to be issued to the officers.
Okay. And what's stopping you from issuing naloxone to all frontline police officers? Because you can't really predict when you're going to run into someone having an overdose, for example.
No, you're right. We can't predict that. But just looking at the information that we have and basing our decisions on the information we have, we see it as a good idea to equip those officers first. No different than other services, I think, that have gone that way. I think Toronto did the same thing when they first rolled out Narcan.
Now, Windsor Police continues to be the only major city police force that doesn't allow its officers to be equipped with naloxone. And I asked the chief today also if she believes Windsor Police is moving too slowly on this issue, and she said no. This despite we've noticed a growing increase when it comes to opioid-related issues, and just this week, the local health unit issuing an alert after a recent spike. Chris.
Thanks for this, Jason. The CBC's Jason Vio live tonight. Will Windsor-Essex get hit by a second wave this pandemic? Officials are bracing for it, but hopeful that it might not happen. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva joins us now live. Kat, what are you hearing?
Well, Chris, the big loaded question is, will the second wave come to Windsor-Essex? Because parts of Ontario are seeing a major surge in cases like Toronto and Ottawa, and yet Windsor-Essex is fairly calm. We're in a good spot right now with low community transmission rates, just one new case reported today. A surge is still very well possible, but officials are urging folks to keep doing what they're doing in terms of safety precautions because it looks to be working. And it's important not to ease up because things can flip on a dime.
Our community has seen the worst. Our community has seen the cases, the surge that lasted longer than any other region in the province.
It was a surge no one wants to see again. Numerous outbreaks on farms, high community transmission, the last part of the province to move into stage 3. The memory of that first wave means Windsor-Essex knows what's at stake.
None of us wants us to be in the same situation when with all those restrictions in place, and that's why I think it really bothers me when people are thinking that everything is good, there's nothing to be worried about.
Take a look at Windsor-Essex's weekly COVID-19 rate over time in red compared to Ontario's rate in blue, skyrocketing in recent weeks. Earlier this year, the shoe was on the other foot.
I sincerely hope that even with this second wave, it will not get that worse, and we may see a milder second wave. Or who knows, by the end of it, we will say, oh, we were in second wave and that was it.
The 7-day moving average for Windsor-Essex is sitting at 4.3 cases. Ahmed says he'll start to worry if that number reaches 10 or more. Hospitalizations and ICU occupancy is low, with only 2 COVID-19 patients in hospital, 1 in the ICU. Ahmed says the reason why we're not in a surge right now is because folks are being vigilant. This infectious disease expert credits having a better handle of cases in the agri-food sector.
That largely went away, and so now you're left with much more typical epidemiology that you would see in a smaller city. So now Windsor-Essex is more like other mid-sized cities in the province of Ontario.
Windsor Regional Hospital's chief of staff says they learned a lot from the first wave and that the hospital is in good shape if there's a surge.
I'm very confident that we're able to handle it. There's not much more we can do in terms of preparation. Again, we went through a lot of work to prepare the field hospital for the first wave. It was used to help with the long-term care facility. and it's ready to go in case we need it on a moment's notice. So it's nice to enjoy the lull, but I don't think anybody's really relaxing that much to the point where they're scheduling a vacation anytime soon.
There was a lot of concern about Thanksgiving, though, Kat. A focus there on families maybe having to spend it apart so we wouldn't see more cases. What did officials say about that?
Right, so given what we know at this very moment, officials are pretty confident that no, that Thanksgiving surge that was feared is not coming. We're at that tail end of that 2-week period when we would have seen an upswing, but that hasn't happened. So it looks as though folks followed health regulations that weekend. As for when we might be in the clear, so to speak, in the grand scheme of things, Dr. Gardam tells me no one is in the clear for at least another year, and that COVID-19 will be coming and going for quite some time moving forward. Chris.
Thanks, Ms. Katerina. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva live tonight. Now, you heard from Dr. Ahmed there about what Windsor and Essex County is doing right, but he says he still sees a bunch of wrong stuff being shared on social media. And this morning, Ahmed let his frustrations fly when asked about a demonstration against COVID restrictions planned for this weekend.
If you are creating that culture and impression in the community, it goes beyond you. And then when more and more people are buying into that philosophy, it increases the risk to the community. And as much as, I try to be respectful of everyone's opinion, but some of those comments are totally absurd. They are lying, they are misquoting any of those information, and they do not have any ability to understand anything, but they pretend that they know something that nobody else knows, and they are probably the smartest people in the world because they do not understand or they do not listen to an expert or a public health professional who has got training, who has got all those experience, the entire organization with the expertise that is out there. And they think, oh, I know more than them, but I never even went to any university or any school, but I read something on the Facebook or I heard someone say that. It's just nonsense.
Meanwhile, in Chatham-Kent, people going out in public with symptoms of COVID-19 may soon face fines of $5,000. The medical officer of health says some people have gone to school or work even though they knew they had symptoms. This as Chatham-Kent went from 0 active cases last Saturday to 14 active cases today.
The line between feeling well and feeling sick is ill-defined, but if someone clearly knows that they have respiratory symptoms that could be compatible with COVID-19 and choose to basically attend work or school anyway, knowing that they've got that, then I think we need to take this more seriously during a pandemic time.
Assembly of First Nations National Chief Perry Bellegarde is calling for the head of the RCMP to resign. Now, it comes just days after the commissioner defended the force's response to an ongoing dispute between Mi'kmaq and non-Indigenous lobster fishermen in Nova Scotia. In a statement released today, he says, "I'll be writing to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to express that we have lost confidence in Royal Canadian Mounted Police Commissioner Brenda Lucki. I am asking the Prime Minister to remove the Commissioner and to replace her with someone who will focus their attention on public safety and combating racism." This Sunday marks the 60th anniversary of one of the worst disasters in Windsor's history. 10 people were killed, 100 were injured in a gas explosion at the Metropolitan Store downtown in 1960. It's a day many Windsorites will never forget. Dale Molnar has more.
It was horrific, the scene right where we're standing right now. What was bodies lying in the street, the debris that was blown right across the street into the fences there.
Majority of them were screaming and crying. I got in there some deep holes with Wally Ballantyne where we had to go down and bring somebody up.
The 2 floors pancaked into the basement, taking the whole lunch counter with it. And the people that were sitting there and serving and whatnot, that's where most of the fatalities were. It was pretty awful.
It was a beautiful Tuesday afternoon on October 25th, 1960. There were just over 70 shoppers in the store and 34 staff. A man installing a gas furnace in the basement ignited a broken gas line, causing the explosion. Walt McCall was a rookie reporter with the Windsor Star who happened to be shopping downtown at the time. When he arrived, he pitched in with 2 other men to dig through the rubble with their bare hands looking for survivors.
Which was awful. One of which it was a woman pinned. She was hanging down. She was pinned by a roof truss. And we couldn't get her. And I thought she was dead. She came to. And a doctor was able to reach in and get a needle, some painkiller in there, but she passed away before they could get her out from under the jacks and lift that thing up. And there was one other lady that died while digging her out. She died, obviously, of eternal injuries.
I got all these plaques from Michael Harris, Honorable Michael Harris, from my service.
Dave Dunbar was a 20-year-old ambulance attendant who was second on the scene with his partner. He transported 8 or 9 people that day over a 9-hour period.
It was kind of overwhelming to see all the debris out on the road and people scattered all over the place, and there was all kind of cars in there, people coming in there to help and stuff like that, and a lot of off-duty firemen and ambulance people, policemen.
Dozens of people pitched in to help. There was eventually an inquest, and the company that caused the gas leak was charged and fined. The store was eventually rebuilt but closed a few years later. A gym occupies the spot in the 400 block now.
To see death like that up close like that, even we're in the news business, we see a lot of accidents, fires, things, but to see it right up close and personal like that was quite a thing, really. I don't wish that on anybody, really.
Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
You can read more about that story online. Just go to cbc.ca/Windsor. You're looking at a special tribute on display at the Consulate of Mexico in Leamington today, a shrine dedicated to the 2 young migrant workers who died after testing positive for COVID-19 this year. Now, this will be part of the Day of the Dead celebrations, a holiday on November 2nd in Mexico to honor family or friends who've died.
Yeah, he needs to wear a face mask. There are some things that they like to eat during their life. Remember of all the firefighters have died, nurses, salt and flowers. That means that's our road in life. Those are the Catrina, and the Catrina is the death. It's a flirty, beautiful woman, and it's always walking among us flirting because they flirt with us like death does. I feel sad for them and for their families. They come here leaving everybody behind, and they're brave men to come and work the best they can. They're very hard workers, all of them.
Well, there are mixed feelings. On one side is regretting this passing of these 2 workers. We don't want to have this kind of situations. On the other hand, well, it's kind of a remembrance to them and a homage for their efforts to come here, to the willing to give to their families a better way of life.
We are from different parts of Mexico. I am from the north. There are some ladies from the south. We get together, we share the same traditions. We enjoy the time of all of us together because living away from our country always, you have that longing to be in your own country.
A live look outside here. News now from Environment Canada that the tornado watch has ended for Windsor, Essex, but still in play for parts of southwestern Ontario, and that includes Chatham, Kent. We remain under that severe thunderstorm warning. Colette Kennedy is going to join us again after the break to break down what we can expect for the rest of the night and into the weekend. A very active weather day today, Colette. We've got a live look outside that we can pull up here to kind of show things that are starting to clear off here. What's the latest that you have as far as those tornado watches?
Yeah, so we're seeing that the main line is pushing off towards the east of us, and we've been watching those tornado watches now be lifted on us. So that's a good thing as we're seeing the active weather move on. Not a good thing for those to the east of us, but we're still seeing severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place and some watches. So I'm going to get to those in a moment. I do just want to, this illustrates so well in terms of why we're seeing this kind of active weather in October. Of course, it's possible even in October when you have a temperature gradient like this. This is just one of the ingredients, but we know we've had the very, very mild air in place today. Earlier we were into the low 20s, and then you look at this much colder air that's carving in here, and so that's providing some of the lift. We're also seeing at different layers in the atmosphere. We get some of the wind shift or some of that areas that can kind of provide the rotation, so that's why there's been that possibility of seeing some tornadic activity. And elsewhere into central Ontario, off of Lake Huron and around Georgian Bay as well, tornado watches and warnings that we've been seeing here as we go through the afternoon hours. Our current temperatures, boy, have they dropped off, of course, as we're seeing not just the front pushing through, but this active weather. Still talking about some of the severe thunderstorm warning activity through here. So just know that we don't need the tornado activity to still have the active weather and some of the wind gusts exceeding 80 and 90 kilometers an hour here. So damaging winds, heavy downpours that cause the flash flooding, a lot of lightning strikes. As I've been illustrating here, look at this in terms of what we're seeing along this frontal boundary. And as well, there have been lots of reports of hail here too. So you can see how it's been tracking 50 to 70 kilometers an hour in terms of the speed here. Windsor nicely, you saw it there with our images starting to clear out. Chatham-Kent as well. Leamington, you're doing a lot better here, but Chatham-Kent clearing as well pretty nicely here over the next half hour or so as that continues to track eastward. Behind this, we get into a much cooler air mass. I showed you what the temperatures look like there, so we'll be seeing things falling off as well. As we go through the overnight hours, still a few sprinkles possible in some of this instability. Still certainly a lot of cloud cover hanging in into tomorrow morning. As we go through the day on Saturday, we'll get into some clearing. The setup then for Saturday night with clearer skies. Patchy frost is certainly possible. We'll see some very chilly temperatures Saturday night into Sunday morning, but we don't get to have those clear skies into Sunday. And Sunday, the clouds are actually coming back in, at least for the early part of the day, and then we'll see some clearing into the afternoon. But it is going to be a cool weekend. That's what we have ahead. At least tonight, the temperatures just beginning to fall off as those winds turn towards the northwest from that southerly flow. Still a little gusty, certainly tonight and even through the day tomorrow. Boy, can you believe those changes in the temperatures from being in the low 20s to talking about highs just in these single digits. Saturday night into Sunday, we'll be lucky to see 2 degrees for that overnight low, Chris.
And you can feel it already, that temperature drop. You were talking about 23 all week on Friday, and then to have all of this happen in the afternoon and for it to so quickly cool down, it's something to see.
It was here. And it went.
And that's the way that goes. Thanks, Miss Colette. Enjoy your weekend.
You as well. Thank you.
Now, coming up, the federal government committing more money to Made in Canada vaccines, supporting those projects as they try and find something to help with COVID-19. That's next. The federal government is committing more than $200 million to help bolster Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Ottawa will use that money to support several made-in-Canada vaccine projects.
Our government is providing up to $173 million for Medicago to advance their vaccine candidate and create a production facility in Quebec City. We have also reached an agreement with them to supply up to 76 million doses of their vaccine. This is about securing potential vaccines for Canadians while supporting good jobs in research.
Ottawa is also providing more than $18 million to support a Vancouver company. $23 million will be spent on the development of 6 other vaccine candidates. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. You can find more stories online, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching. Make sure you and your family have a wonderful weekend.